Hi, my name is Talia. I am a perpetually professed member of the Institute of Our Lady of the Annunciation. Welcome to a brief instruction on how to understand the way that the Liturgy of the Hours is set up to maybe help you navigate it a little easier. So I'm going to flip this camera around so you can see the book as I work my way through and show you what it is you're looking at. So first things first, guys, you have one of two options. Well, I guess one of the most common two options for praying the Liturgy of the Hours, where the page numbers and how it's all set up will make a difference. You can either be using the Book of Christian Prayer or the 4-volume Liturgy of the Hours set. If you're using either the apps like Breviary or the Divine Office app, this concern about the organization isn't quite as integral to you, but you might still find it useful for understanding why certain things change, even if you don't necessarily need the assistance in finding where you need to go if you're using the app. There are put out, as well as the two most common forms of books, there are books that have just Office of Morning Prayer, Office of Evening Prayer, and Night Prayer. So the hinges of Liturgy of the Hour. I believe there's also other ones that include just Night Prayer. There are many options available out there for like little abbreviated forms, but these are probably the two most common book forms for Liturgy of the Hours. So I'm going to put aside the Book of Christian Prayer. For one thing, I don't use it quite as often as my 4-volume set. For another thing, I just happen to have a large print 4-volume set, just because that was my luck of the draw when I was picking up my 4-volume set. So it'll be easier for everyone to see what I'm doing. Now, I think that tomorrow might actually be a memorial rather than a normal day, but I'm going to act like it's a normal day that I'm setting up for, just so that way you have a general idea of what your parts are that you're looking at. First of all, Liturgy of the Hours is very simply the normal cycle. So what you do if you don't have any special days, it's set up in a cyclical 4-week cycle. So after you finish week 4, you start again with week 1, and you just keep repeating that with the only thing changing being, the specific feast days or the specific memorials, etc. So that is the easiest place to start to learning the Liturgy of the Hours is probably doing your normal everyday. I'm going to be looking at Saturday, week 4, because that is where I happen to be. So we're going to skip over the Office of Readings right now. We're just going to focus on what you're generally looking at for what's called the hinge prayers of the Liturgy of the Hours. So these are the parts of the Liturgy of the Hours that are usually recommended for the laity to pray if they pray nothing else in the Liturgy of the Hours. So usually that is Office of Morning Prayer, Office of Evening Prayer, and then if they're able, Night Prayer. But yeah, Office of Morning Prayer and Office of Evening Prayer are considered the hinge prayers, the hinge hours for the Liturgy Hours. So we're going to move over to morning prayer. But one of the first things I want to note before we skip past Office of Readings, if Office of Readings is not your first of the hours that you're praying for the day, now hours is not to say that each of the hours is an actual hour. I think the longest one, which is the Office of Readings, might take half an hour tops. It's, I'll have to look at one of my books that says why they're called hours. I think it has something to do with the time that it's set at, or something about, I'll get back to you guys when I go back to one of the books that I read that explained it a little bit better. But needless to say, the most important thing right now to know is that you don't have to set aside an hour for each one of these hours, for Liturgy of the Hours. So for Office of Morning Prayer, if you're not doing Office of Reading before it, if you're starting off your Liturgy of the Hours day with Office of Morning Prayer, you need to start off with the invitatory. If Office of Readings is first, you do the invitatory with Office of Readings, and then don't do it for morning prayer. So whatever your first hour that you're praying in the Liturgy hours of the day is, whether it's Office of Readings or Office of Morning Prayer, that gets the invitatory before it. So this part is probably the easiest part because it doesn't really change. You know where your antiphon is. So wherever your antiphon is for whatever your day is, you do your antiphon. Then you go, either you can use the insert that comes with the liturgy book. Like a lot of them have, I don't have them right here, but there's an insert that can come with your book that'll have things like the invitatory in it, your Canticle of Zechariah, your Canticle of the Blessed Virgin. A couple of the things that you'll see every day will be in there. There's a couple of inserts that come with at least every Liturgy Hours book I've ever picked up, or every book of Christian prayer that I've picked up. They usually have the inserts in there, and that is meant to try to avoid all the page flipping if that ends up being an issue for you. But since I don't have my insert, what you do after you do the Lord open my lips and my mouth proclaim your praise, you say your antiphon, and then you go over to where the invitatory psalm is. And the book will tell you where to go. So that's page 613. Now, one of the nice things about all the books that you'll have, or at least all the books that I've ever had for the Liturgy of the Hours, is they do provide a basic guide. So this section, it's usually in the center of the book, and it's set aside as, it'll say the ordinary of Liturgy hours for ordinary time, or whatever it might say, whatever that time is. So this is for ordinary time. If it's for Lent, it'll say Lent. If it's for Advent, it'll say Advent. This happens to be ordinary time. So they give you basic instructions, and this is why I knew to go and my mouth proclaim your praise after I said, Lord, open my lips. So if you want to, and if you're just starting, this is a very good way to learn how to do the Liturgy of the Hours, to have this page as a reference point, to have this section as a reference point, because it has all the hours here and some basic instructions there. So it'll tell you if you don't want to do Psalm 95 for your invitatory, you have other options that you can do. Now, what it also will say, so right here it says an individual recitation, the antiphon that I just shown you back when we were on Sunday, back when we were on Saturday week 4, I showed you that antiphon. In the individual recitation, the antiphon may be said at the beginning and at the end of Psalm 95. Now, because I am always praying this live with you guys, I say the antiphon in between each, I believe it's pronounced strophe, in between each little section here. And so I would do the antiphon, and then the antiphon. So, and if you're praying it with two people, so like when I pray it aloud with my mom, she'll say the antiphon, and then I'll say the Psalter part. So you finish this, and then it shows you the particular way for the Liturgy of the Hours that we do the Glory Be, which is why you'll sometimes hear me mess up, because I say the normal way of saying the Glory Be when I do Pauline prayers live with you guys. So if I mess up, that's why, because the Liturgy of the Hours does it slightly differently. So you've gone through, you've done your invitatory, you've done all your antiphon, you've done your glory be, you've done your antiphon again. Now, since you've done all that, you're going to return back to your week 4 Saturday, because we're doing just a normal day of the week. Now, because we're not doing Office of Readings, we need to find the section that says morning prayer. Okay, there we go, morning prayer. Now, this is the prayer that you would say if you had already done the invitatory for Office of Readings, but since you have, we are assuming that, you're doing the prayer time with me, and so you're doing the invitatory with morning prayer. So we don't have to do this right here. Now, this is some of the stuff that I feel like kind of helps make things a little bit easier to understand when we have special days. I kind of look at your liturgy, your particular hour, to be broken up into sections. So you have the invitatory section, which is what we just covered. Then we have the hymn section, the psalmody section, the reading section, which always includes the responsory. Then you have the Canticle of Zechariah antiphon with its connected canticle. So you have that section. And then you have the intercession section and the ending prayer section. That probably seems like a lot of sections. But the reason why I want to emphasize these sections is because these are the things that will potentially change if you have a special day. In a normal day, you just follow along as it is. You just pray, you do your hymn, you do everything as it's written. Now, I do want to say before I go into the parts again, when it says the Canticle of Zechariah, it gives you the antiphon there that's supposed to go before and after the Canticle of Zechariah. You do have to go and find the Canticle of Zechariah. And that is back in that area where we had all the how-to. And so that's where looking over your how-to section in your Liturgy of the Hours book is also helpful, because then you know where to find things like your Canticle of Zechariah. And so it'll have it there. You pray this, you do your glory be, and then you return, do the antiphon a second time before going on, doing your intercession, ending with the ending prayer. And then also you go back, because again, it doesn't, actually I think it does tell you, conclusion as in the ordinary. So the ordinary is this area that, tells you how to do everything. And it gives you the conclusion options. So since we always pray it in community, since I'm doing it live, we have the dismissal, which is may the Lord bless, blah, blah, blah. Here we go, there. In the absence of a priest or deacon, and in individual recitation, morning prayer concludes, may the Lord bless us, protect us from all evil, and bring us to everlasting life. So we don't have the deacon or priest when I pray it live. So we would just jump on to may the Lord bless us, protect us from all evil, and bring us to everlasting life. Amen. And then you end. So this ordinary section, very important for helping you really understand how to move along. This will help with the understanding of just the basics. Okay, now why the parts are important. So going back, well, there's Office of Readings again. Going back to morning prayer. Now say you have a special day. Now, as I've mentioned in other videos, the first place you go to search for a special day is you're going to go to what's called the Proper of Saints. So let me pause and take us there. So the Proper of Saints is basically if there's anything special on your particular day. So if there was something on, let's see, tomorrow is, let's see, what is tomorrow? Okay, tomorrow's the 20th. So, okay, doesn't look like we actually do have a special day tomorrow. I thought we did. Okay, so not a special day tomorrow, unlike what I thought. So it is just normal Saturday tomorrow. But let's say we were actually headed into something like St. Matthew. So you can see that you would start off in the proper saints, and if what you need is not in the proper saints, you go to the common, which happens to be the common apostles for this particular day, and then you go from there. Now, why do I mention all this? Well, let's go back to our Psalter again. Or let's go back to, our Psalter again. The Psalter is the 4-week cycle area. So if this is a special day, like we'd said, you're going to check first and see if your hymn is in the proper saints. If it is not, you go to the common of apostles, pastors, whatever the common is for that particular day. This is why it's important to know the pieces and the parts of your Liturgy of the Hours, so you know if something is missing in one area, check a different area. So until you have all your sections covered. So if the hymn is not in the proper saints, you go and get it from the common. Now, if your psalmody, so the 2 psalms and the canticle, if they are not provided in the proper saints, like say it isn't some huge solemnity or something like that, you're going to get the psalmody from the Psalter. And actually, usually you will get, even at least in the morning, you'll at least get the psalmody for like the morning. Like I said, in the morning, you might get it for Sunday week 1. But that's a whole nother thing. It'll tell you in the proper of saints. But okay, so if you don't have something specifically in the proper saints that has like the psalmody there, you're going to come to the day, what would normally be the ordinary day for the dates that you're on. So if you have been on week 4 all week and now you're on a special day, you would go back to week 4 and just be on the day of the week that you would be on if this was an ordinary day instead of a special day. So you would take your psalmody from the Psalter area. You would do the antiphons and the psalms from this area, unless otherwise specified in the proper of saints. And once you are finished with the prayers of the psalmody, so that would be the psalmody, would be the antiphon, psalm, and a lot of times psalm prayer, antiphon, psalm, antiphon, I think this is a canticle here, but antiphon, psalm, psalm prayer. So once you've finished those 3 parts of your psalmody, you would go back to your proper saints and see, okay, do I need to take my next part, which is the reading, from the proper saints? If there isn't a reading in the proper saints, you can either take it from the Psalter, or you can take it from the common. So in the case of St. Matthew, it would be in the common of the apostles. If for some reason the reading is not there, I don't know if it is or not for Matthew. So regardless as to whether or not you take the reading from the Psalter or from the common of apostles, you have to make sure that you do the corresponding responsory with it. So if you do the reading from the Psalter, you do the responsory from the Psalter. If you do the reading from the common, you do the responsory from the common. Okay, All good. You've finished that section. You've done the reading responsory section from wherever you were going to take it from. Now, next, you're going to be entering in the Canticle of Zechariah, or if it's evening prayer, the Canticle of Mary section. So, if first you would check, of course, your proper saints. Is the antiphon for either of these canticles in the proper saints? If not, then you take it, and if not, and it's still a special day, then you're going to take the antiphon for the Canticle of Zechariah, or if it's evening prayer, the Canticle of Mary, from the common of that particular day. So again, if we're on St. Matthew, it would be the common of apostles. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is, it could well be that St. Matthew has it in the proper of saints. I'm speaking hypothetically. So you've done your canticle, you've gone to the section, the ordinary section, you've prayed the actual Canticle of Zechariah or the actual Canticle of Mary from the ordinary. You return back to wherever you had your antiphon from. So if this is a normal day, it would be here in the Psalter. If it is a special day and it's in the proper of saints, you would do it from the proper saints. Or if it's a special day and it's not in the proper saints, you would take it from the common of the day, i.e. common of apostles, if we are continuing to go with the example of St. Matthew. Okay, your next section, that would be the intercessions. Once again, if this is a special day and if it is a special day versus a normal day where everything just is automatically in the Psalter, first place you check the proper of saints. If it's in the proper of saints, cool. You just do your intercessions from the proper of saints. If it's not in the proper of saints, where you check next, you check the common. So in the case of St. Matthew, common of apostles. Now, most of the time, that's where it'll be. If it's not in the proper of saints and it's a special day, usually it'll be in the common for the day. But for a couple of the commons, they don't have the intercessions there. I want to say it's the common for the doctors of the church that might not have it there. So if you happen to have one of those commons that don't have the intercessions in the common, and it's not in the proper of saints either, you can't skip the intercessions just because it's not in the proper of saints and it's not in the common of the day. Then you come back to the Psalter and you're like, okay, it's been week 4 all week. And so let's go, and today's Saturday, so let's go and go to Saturday, week 4, and take the intercessions from the Psalter. So you pray your intercessions from the Psalter, you finish with your Our Father. Now, because you're on a special day and not on an ordinary day, you would leave the Psalter, and then, once again, you check the proper of saints first. Usually, unless it's a newer feast day or memorial or whatever, you will usually find your ending prayer, if nothing else, in the proper of saints. However, if it is a newer feast day or a newer memorial or whatever, you might have to go to the common for your ending prayer, and there will be options available to you. Everywhere, once in a while, you have to go to the appendix, but I will specify. If you're praying with me, I will specify when that's the case. And usually your St. Joseph's Guide will let you know when that's the case. So I don't know if this has made it more, I'm sorry. So you've done all that, you've done your ending prayer, then it's conclusion as in the ordinary. And I showed you that earlier, where you flip back to the ordinary. Hang on, let me put this marker here. You flip back to the ordinary, and then it will tell you how to end, and that's the end of your Liturgy of the Hours. Night prayer and evening prayer are set up very much the same. The main differences are the fact that you won't have the invitatory for evening prayer, and you will have the Canticle of Mary versus the Canticle of Zechariah for that right after your reading and responsory section. So the Canticle Zechariah, of course, is what Saint John's father prayed, proclaimed after he was given back his ability to speak, after John was christened. And then the Canticle of Mary for evening prayer, this is the Magnificat. But other than that, you know, most of the basic aspects of office of morning prayer and office of evening prayer are the same. If you know how to pray one, it's pretty easy how to figure out to pray the other. So that's really the basics. I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see me. So that's the basic idea with the Liturgy of the Hours. I hope that's kind of made things a little bit more clear about why certain things change, why I know where to go and where not to go if I have a general idea of what's going on, and why I might be looking at different sections before I pray something. So like if I can't remember, if I didn't think to write down my page numbers and I don't feel like getting out my St. Joseph's guide, you might see me flip through and peek over the proper saints really quickly just to make sure that I don't have the Canticle Zechariah antiphon there. And if I find out it's not there, I'll just stay in the common that I'm at, do my antiphon there, and then flip over to the Canticle Zechariah. So sometimes you'll see me do something like that. And that's because I know my pieces and parts of the Liturgy of the Hours, and I know where to look first if I'm on a special day or if I'm on a normal day. So knowing the pieces and parts of the Liturgy of the Hours are really very important for understanding what you're doing and why we're flipping around. And maybe at some other point I'll show where the Liturgy of the Hours, its setup matches up with the way your missal is set up, so you can see how it is continuation of, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm looking off to the side. I can never quite get the camera angle right. Okay, so how the Liturgy of the Hours is really continuation of the Liturgy of the Mass, and how the setup of your missal and the setup of your Liturgy of the Hours book and how you would do your flipping around will show a lot of that, will really kind of make more clear, make it more evident. Oh yeah, it's really built off of the same idea, the same format. And it might make it not only easier for you to connect your Liturgy of the Hours with the Liturgy of the Mass, but also maybe even make it easier for you to figure out where to go in your missal once you figure out how to navigate in your liturgy book. Because I know initially that was a challenge for me, figuring out where I needed to go in my missal. But once I connected it in my head with my Liturgy of the Hours, then I realized that, oh, okay, I just need to look for sections like I do in my liturgy book. Cool. So, yes. Anyway, that video might be coming at some point. I need to splice this together. Hopefully this isn't too confusing, but I'm hoping by breaking down the pieces and parts, it'll make everything click a little bit more, make things a little bit more comprehensible. Because I really feel like once I understood the basic pieces and parts, that's when things kind of started falling into place for me. All right, thank you very much for joining me for this instructional video. I hope that you have a great day and that you find this to work for you. God bless. Bye.